Welcome to the podcast about venture capital, where investors and founders alike can learn how VCs make decisions and reach conviction. Your host is Nick Moran, and this is The Full Ratchet.
Welcome back to TFR for a special installment of Investor Stories. In this segment, the investors tell a story about some of the most odd and unusual situations they've ever encountered as investors. This is the segment called The Strange and Unusual. On today's special segment, we have Ben Casnocha of Village Global. Ben, what is the strangest, most unusual, or most memorable startup pitch that you've received?
You know, I spent, there was a period in my life when I was sort of in between things, and I traveled the world and just did a lot of speaking to all sorts of audiences about entrepreneurship and innovation. And I did some work with the State Department, and I was out in rural Indonesia with probably about 400 or 500 high school students in the audience. And they all were wearing pins on their shirts that had a big image of my face and the image of their teacher, sort of their spiritual leader, with the American flag underneath it. And they're all waving. It felt like a political rally. And it was just kind of totally wild. I think I was in my early 20s, maybe I was in mid 20s. So it was a totally unique experience. I'd never been to Indonesia. And then afterwards, in the stifling humidity of Indonesia, outside Jakarta, unbelievably hot, no AC. I'm sweating through my dress shirt. There's just a parade of high school kids pitching their business ideas. And actually, they were all nothing that we would say invest in as a VC, but they're all like good, interesting local ideas. It was incredibly inspiring to hear their passion. And I felt really fortunate to be able to play the part anyway of an expert, which I wasn't. I'm still really not. But to be able to motivate them and inspire them, I don't think they'd ever met anybody from America, actually, let alone sort of a younger entrepreneur. So I always remember that scene.
On today's special segment, we have Janet Bannister of Real Ventures. Janet, what is the strangest, most unusual, or most memorable startup pitch you've received?
So, I don't know. I've had a lot of founders who say things that I think, oh, you maybe shouldn't have said that.
Yes. 100%.
Like when you say, why are you raising money? And they say, because we're about to run out of money in a couple of weeks. It's like, ooh, I'm not sure that was the best answer.
Not the right reason.
Yeah. So there's a couple more of those, but that's what I would say. I think that it's fun if entrepreneurs try to do something creative in terms to get through. So for instance, I once said to somebody, I'll have a telephone call with you. That's right. This entrepreneur wanted to have coffee with me. I get a lot of requests for coffee. So at some point I just said, I'm sorry, I don't have time, but I'll have a 15-minute call with you. So we had a 15-minute telephone call. And the next day in my office came this beautiful cake that was decorated as a coffee mug. And it said in letters, thanks for the call. Hopefully next time we can do coffee.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, now I got to go for coffee with this founder. How can you say no to that? So I think things like that really break through is what I would encourage founders to think about and be creative about.
So amazing, because the emotional intelligence, the creativity, the ingenuity, it hits on a bunch of different factors. It's awesome.
Yes. Not to mention going right for your gut. It's like, how can you say no to somebody who gives you free cake? It's like, this is awesome. Yes.
Free cake. Love it. On today's special segment, we have Nikhil Basu Trivedi. Nikhil, what's the strangest, most unusual, or most memorable startup pitch you've received?
Oh man, I think one of the very memorable ones was a company called Whim, which we ended up investing in at Shasta, that was building a frozen yogurt machine. And so the pitch was amazing because within a couple minutes in the meeting, the founders had created a bowl of incredibly delicious frozen yogurt that had been created out of, a mixture, milk poured into it, stuck into a machine, and out came this incredible, delicious product. And so, that one really stands out as really memorable. We invested alongside Homebrew and Coastal Ventures. The company ended up getting acquired by Walmart. That was a very memorable first meeting.
Pretty good product demo there.
Very delicious.
It's amazing to me, Nikhil, how many startups, even software, the demo still falls down. Something just doesn't work when they're demoing the product.
Yeah.
And for somebody to have, hardware that with these, consumables and stuff, and it just comes out delicious.
Impressive. I mean, especially because different people have different taste profiles. But like in that first meeting, I think it was, each of us took bites of the froyo, and I think we all were sitting there very, very satisfied and excited to eat more of it.
Did you by chance ever come across Juicero as an investor?
Yeah, I actually never met with Juicero, but I did try the product, and the juice actually was all right, but I think there were other dimensions of the business that were challenging.
On today's special segment, we have Farook Abbasi of Preface Ventures. Farook, what's the strangest, most unusual, or most memorable startup pitch you've received?
Memorable, there's been some really meaningful ones. I mean, probably the best pitch and the one that was just the most beautiful and well-defined was Redlock. So I was the first check in Redlock. It was a team out of Salesforce and Cypher Cloud. They basically architected a solution to do multi-cloud developer security compliance and ensure that databases and workloads and instances don't go exposed to the internet for a long time, which totally happens all the time. And Varun and I met at a kind of a secret enterprise conference. And we just, our 4-minute conversation was packed with so much content and so much useful information. And then when we had our conversation, he struck me with his sort of eloquence and how he can boil down such a complex issue, right? There's a lot of jargon in there, but it's hard technically from a network and data perspective to really in real time through metadata understand network misconfigurations. And I'm really grateful to him that we partnered together, and it was a wonderful outcome to Palo Alto Networks for $200 million. So that's probably my most memorable one. Strange and unusual. I had an ex-convict knock on the door of the DN Capital offices when I was a little earlier in my career, and I think he had emailed info at probably to 1,000 different folks, and he walks in the room and he goes, "I'm here to raise money. I have a startup. I just got out of jail. This is the first thing that I'm doing. I want you to listen to me."
Was this on Sand Hill or?
It was on Sand Hill. It was on Sand Hill. And and actually I listened to him. Like, why not? Yeah. Why not? I gave him half an hour. He had a truly terrible idea. Somehow it was like a giveaway company and there was no revenue model. And he wanted to raise equity to give away items, and bless this guy. This guy had wonderful intent, clearly went through a lot in his life. And he probably should be an entrepreneur. He just was working on the wrong thing. And so that was pretty memorable.
That will conclude this installment of Investor Stories. If you're enjoying the program and would like to see it continue, take a moment and leave a 5-star review in iTunes. Also, if you'd like updates on new content from TFR, as well as the top 10 VC articles every week, go to fullratchet.net and sign up for the newsletter. Okay, that will wrap things up for today. Until next time, over-prepare, choose carefully, and invest confidently. Thanks for joining me.